National Health Service. Years young today, can we say a massive thank you to all those who over all those years have worked so hard in our National Health Service to keep us all safe from whatever part of this world or this country they've come from. They've made the effort, and thank you especially to the Windrush generation for their work as well. The NHS was a creation of an Aaron Bevan and the post-war Labour government, but the inspiration came from the mining communities in South Wales, it came from the Tredegar Health campaigns, and it came from a belief in working class communities that they deserved the very best that healthcare could provide, knowing full well that at that time they never got it. And Anaib Bevan was very clear that there should be a national health service with national standards equally provided for the whole country. And there are many people here today who've campaigned very, very hard for the National Health Service and tried to stop cuts taking place and tried to stop the destruction of our services. But can I say today a special salute to those from Wright and Lee campaign stopping the privatisation of their jobs and their services. And congratulations to Unison and Unite members for the work they're doing. And if I could be allowed just to say something locally, because it's of great significance, I want to say thank you to the Defend Whittington Health campaign for some years ago preventing the closure of A&E and thus the continuation of the hospital, and just winning a campaign now when the hospital wanted to outsource all of its building management and building construction to a private company called Ryhurst, associated with Rydon. Yesterday, or Thursday rather, we got the news, they've retreated, it's all staying public. Because what all of our campaigns say and do all over the country is the principle that the National Health Service is there for us for all time and free at the point of use. And when the original NHS Act was introduced in 1946, it's quite an amazing document, because in paragraph 1 it describes healthcare has to be hospital, has to be doctors, has to be social care, has to be public health, has to be mental health, and has to have regard for the social conditions under which people are living. Paragraph 2 makes it clear that the NHS shall be free at the point of use for everyone for all time. To me, it is socialism in action. But there have been huge attacks on our NHS over many years. The Tories voted against the original legislation and have always sought to privatise and continue an internal market within the NHS. So we now have the utterly ridiculous situation where the National Health Service, when it refuses to hand out a contract to the private sector, then gets sued for the loss of a contract that was never awarded as a way of compensation for them, and that money goes into the hands of those that are trying to rip off our NHS. And the money has been paid out to Virgin Health and many others because of this is huge. But there's also a principle involved. Paying money out to private health contractors, the profits of which could, and sometimes do, end up in tax havens around the world. Think it through. You and I pay our taxes because we want a health service for everybody. I don't pay my taxes for somebody to rip off the public and squirrel their profits away to avoid the tax that the rest of us need for our services. And so, the 2012 Health and Social Care Act is an act that has been designed to break up our National Health Service and turn it into a contracting agency into the private sector. I say no. I want the NHS to be run, paid for and operated by the public, for the public and in public hands. But I also want us to recognise there is still enormous work to be done. When he introduced the legislation after the Second World War, and Aaron Bevan was also the housing minister, he saw the connection between bad housing, poor diet, dirty air, unsafe working conditions, and the dangers of ill health that come from that. The NHS is there to deal with our illnesses, but we also need a health service that's there to deal with our public health as well. The air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink are all part of our health. But there's another area, and that is the crisis of mental health in this country at the present time. Sadly, the biggest killer amongst young men in this country is suicide from levels of stress. Yes, we need more support mechanisms, we need more talking therapy, we need all of that. But we also need a different attitude towards mental health, where we reach out towards each other and don't make jokes about somebody's mental health condition, reach out and support them rather than condemning them. And it's also about the stress that young people go through in what I believe to be an over-competitive education system and deep levels of indebtedness when they go to college and university. And it has to be related to the housing stress that so many people face. Children growing up in insecure, damp, overcrowded, private rented accommodation with only 6-month tenancies have a stress level that many others find hard to comprehend. So what I want to do is get a different government in that's committed to the National Health Service. But I also want that government to be committed to hope for young people, hope for decent jobs, hope for decent education, hope for good apprenticeships, and for everyone the certainty of having somewhere decent and secure to live for the rest of their lives. We have life expectancy differences across this country that are horrendous and huge. In Scotland, for example, the gap between the life expectancy of the best off and the worst off is 26 years. 26 years difference because of all the health inequalities that are faced. And so, I say this to you. Our NHS was founded because people had vision. People in working class communities came together because they wanted each other to be healthy and they wanted to be able to employ a doctor, a nurse, a health centre, or whatever was appropriate in their own communities. The creation of the NHS was a coming together, a learning of that experience in all those communities. And we've got to do it all over again in mental health, in social care, and in ensuring our NHS remains public and there for all time. And it has survived because people campaigned for it. And Aaron Bevan when asked before he died, they said, "Nye, how long do you think the NHS will last?" And he said, "It will last as long as there are folk around to defend it." Well, we're folk, we're defending it, and we're defending that principle of the NHS. That means message to the government, message to the Department of Health, message to Theresa May, if she's got back yet to Downing Street. One, stop privatisation of any service in the NHS. Two, end the internal market in the NHS. Stop the competition. Three, don't con staff with a national pay agreement at the same time as you create the internal market to create internal employers in private companies within the NHS that think they are not bound by national pay agreements and conditions. Everybody paid properly on national conditions. And properly fund social care so that the million people now living in stress, trying to find somewhere to be looked after, and their families going through awful discussions about who's going to give up work to look after an elderly relative. And it's usually the women who have to give up work in order to look after an older person. In the name of equality, in the name of justice, pay the social care needs that are necessary so people can live in dignity. And lastly, I feel so strongly about this, the provision of mental health within our society. It is a symbol of an uncaring and cruel and divided society that so many go through mental health stress, so many go through it alone, and so many sadly take their own lives. I want to live in a society where we have a health service worthy of the name, paid for by all of us, for all of us. It's called socialism. I want to see the same principles. The same principles applied in education and in housing. We campaigned, our forefathers campaigned, those who went before us campaigned for an NHS. We're here today on this amazing 70th birthday here in Whitehall. Yes, to celebrate, but do we have the absolute determination that we will go to the end of the earth and beyond to defend our National Health Service? Thank you very much.
really great conversation.
Yes, I learned a lot from it.
And it brought back all my memories of when I was there in '83 with Bernie.
Because I know there would have been a lot of persons who would not have been the best move publicly, but the fact that you had the courage to do it and saw him meant a lot for us as revolutionaries. And we do everything that we could.
Andre, they want to pick
you're so welcome.
Yay! Solidarity!
You're so welcome.
All that you do.
He is wonderful, man.
Yes, I have been in touch with him.
Thanks. Look after yourself, mate.
Paul looks after me.
Jeremy Sanders for me.